Welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to compare the Pimax Crystal with the Pimax 8KX. So if you're interested in what I've got to say, stick around, stay tuned, and I'll see you after a quick word from our dear sponsor, VRROC. VRROC offer the widest selection of custom-made prescription lens inserts that I've ever come across, and whether you are nearsighted or farsighted, they cater for all the major VR headsets, all the way from a Quest 2 to a Vario Aero, and even the huge lenses of the Pimax 8KX. However, if you don't wear glasses, that's also fine, because to be honest, it's essential to make sure that you keep your lenses and your eyes happy. VRROC lens inserts offer 5 different coatings, including anti-glare and blue light filters, which actually help combat motion sickness and insomnia. Right now I have a 5% discount code which can be used across their entire product range, so go grab it now while it's still available. So welcome back to the channel once again. We are in the Blackbird Simulations Cessna 310, which, I mean, let's be honest, of all the aircraft, this is right up there, isn't it? You know, with the Black Square Baron and perhaps even the Just Flight Turbo Arrow. It's definitely in the top, probably 3 best general aviation aircraft there is for this sim right now. And as we fly over Liverpool in the Pimax Crystal, let's talk about how it compares to the infamous, shall I say, Pimax 8KX. Look at this view. You can even see the white caps as well. It's quite windy today. So the reason why I say infamous is because I believe, in my opinion anyway, that the 8KX is a bit of a Marmite headset. You either love it or you hate it. Now I'm in the love it camp, but I do understand why some people don't like it. I mean, it really is a groundbreaking headset when it comes to the field of view, but that comes at a huge cost to performance. And you know, it's not till very recently you've needed things like parallel reprojections in order for it to work correctly without having distortions on the far outer edges of the lenses. So it's fair to say the 8KX is a fickle beast, but it's much better now in terms of its setup. But anyway, let's just make this a bit more concise and start with image quality. How do the two compare? Well, you know what? In order to answer this question, I've been using the 8KX again because I haven't used it for a good month or so. But I've been flying around in it for a couple of days, and one thing which really surprised me, I forgot how clear that headset really is. It's a very nice display, without a doubt. But it's nowhere near the delight of the Crystal, for 2 reasons. One, the aspheric lenses gives you a very clear sweet spot of at least about 80 to 85%, if not more than that. It means you can move your eyes around and not your head. With the 8KX you've got Fresnel based lenses, so the sweet spot, while it's not that bad actually, it's much better than the Reverb G2. Like any Fresnel based headset, you're going to have to move your head around and keep your eyes focused central on that sweet spot. It's something that, like anything, you get used to, but when you've come from the Crystal, it's, yeah, a massive difference, guys. And I do think for flight simulation purposes, aspheric lenses or pancake lenses is the only way to go now in 2023. If you really want that fantastic image quality and be able to move your head around looking at all the gauges. And really that's stating the obvious, but it needs to be said, the Crystal's party piece is the aspheric lenses, and I'm so glad that Pimax have decided to go that route, because it just is the most amazing technology for VR that we have. It's just changes everything really. So I don't think it comes as any surprise when I say the Crystal absolutely beats the pants off the 8KX when it comes to visual clarity, and that extends to the colours as well. And of course it has local dimming, which, I mean, it's a massive difference in terms of the black levels to the 8KX. Just to let you know guys, I'm just editing the video and I forgot to mention something pretty important. I think that the 8KX can make you feel a bit cross-eyed at times. And I think part of that is the IPD issue. It just doesn't match what you set in the headset. Well, I'm pleased to say with the Crystal, it is absolutely spot on. And something that is important to note is the binocular overlap is excellent. In fact, it's the best out there, right up there with the Pico 4 in fact. And what that really means is that it looks like you're looking through one display rather than two separate displays. Anyway, back to the video. So let's go and talk about comfort next, because this is another area which really surprised me. And to really make sure that I know what I'm talking about here, I have been using the 8KX for the last couple of days, as I've mentioned, but in standard trim. And what I mean by that is usually I have a balancer kit on the back of my headset from Studio Form. In fact, I've got a review on the channel. Really makes a huge difference to the 8KX. It makes it a lot less front heavy. But since I am comparing the standard 8KX to the standard Crystal, well, there is where I was quite surprised, because it quickly became apparent after about 20 minutes that the 8KX is very front heavy, and it actually started to hurt the bridge of my nose. So I have to say that the Crystal is more comfortable, especially as I'm using it without any modifications, because there's, well, nothing out there at the moment for it, but I don't think it really needs it. With the battery in the back, even though this is like the heaviest headset probably that's ever been made for the consumer market, it really is very, very comfortable, simply because it is very well balanced. So yeah, I wasn't expecting to say this, but in terms of comfort, the Crystal also wins in that regard. Now, let's also talk about the setup process. Again, I have to give the honours to the Crystal. I mean, it's not completely plug and play, especially when it comes to a Microsoft Flight Simulator, but if you're getting a Crystal, I would hugely recommend that you check out my settings guide. That's all you need to know. It's all in that video, and that will get you up and running, no problems at all. But I will say that even the 8KX, with its very high resolution due to the field of view, you do need to take that back a little bit, just like the Crystal. But the only problem is, because of that massive field of view, there's an extra thing to complicate matters. And if you do run the 8KX with its widest field of view setting, and of course that's something you'd want to do, it makes sense, that's why you'd buy an 8KX, the performance really does plummet, even without parallel reprojections enabled. With the Crystal, basically you just plug it in, it works straight away, and of course with the Pimax XR runtime, or Pimax switcher, well, that's the same for the 8KX in that case. They both use that technology, and it works really, really well. But if I had to pick one over the other in terms of software, well, again, I think it's the Crystal, and that's down just to Pimax listening and learning how to do things better. And, you know, I had a meeting with Pimax the other day. It gave me a chance to voice all of the problems that, you know, Pimax are known for, and be the voice of the community, which is a huge privilege. So I had a really good chat with them, and I've got confidence that they are listening, and all the feedback they're getting from myself and other YouTubers, but also from the comments in all my videos, they are listening, and I do feel the setup will just get easier and easier over time. Sorry about this, guys. Future Steve once again, for the last time I promise. Me and Monty have just forgot something very important. The fact the 8KX needs base stations, of course, which is an extra cost, as well as more faffage, as I like to say, getting them set up. If you compare that to the Crystal, it has inside-out tracking, which, well, it's just plug and play, works very well. However, you may argue that the base station sort of outside-in tracking solution of the 8KX is better. Well, in the future, there will be a SteamVR faceplate so that you can use the Crystal using the traditional outside-in tracking. But again, I thought it was something that was worth mentioning. But at this point in time, yeah, it's another win for the Crystal. It's definitely better when it comes to the setup. Absolutely. There is, by the way, Manchester fading into the background. Derbyshire is over there, and we're currently heading to Leeds Bradford over the Yorkshire moors, which is going to be absolutely beautiful. Look at this aircraft. She is an absolute beauty, don't you think? I actually took this very aircraft all around Norway. I've got about 50 hours in this thing now, and I'm still using this same model. And so far, with all the maintenance and all that kind of thing that you have to keep on top of, she's still purring like a kitten. Hopefully, anyway. So in terms of audio, the 8KX has two different options, the KD-MAS and the D-MAS. Many people prefer the KD-MAS simply because it has a better bass response and it's an enclosed style, what's the word? Like normal headphones, basically. Now, that is a much better option if you want the most powerful sound. However, I will say that the D-MAS speakers, with the latest firmware update with the Crystal, is excellent. Pretty much on par with the Reverb G2 and Valve Index. Now that is something I never thought I would say. So well done to the Pimax engineers for that. Trouble is, I don't think that firmware update is available for the 8KX at this point in time. So at the moment, even though they use the same speaker layout, or you can get the D-MAS speakers for the 8KX, I do feel the Crystal sounds better. Now at the time of this recording, it's probably likely that the offer for the free D-MAS for the Crystal has now expired. So that means you'll get the sort of piped audio through the strap, which I'm not a massive fan of. It does sound better now, but I mean really you're going to want to get the D-MAS speakers with your order. Highly recommended, definitely. Look at this beautiful view here. So what else? Well, let's now talk about the obvious thing. Field of view. The reason why you have a Pimax 8KX, I'm guessing, is because you favour field of view over anything else. And really, the Pimax 8KX is really known for being the most incredibly groundbreaking VR headset that still to this day has the widest field of view of any headset. That is consumer and professional grade as well. Although the Xtul, is that how you pronounce it? I've no idea. That probably has about the same type of field of view, but it's way more expensive. And don't get me wrong, guys, like the 8KX, when it comes to the field of view, it is absolutely stunning. Even with the Fresnel-based lenses, when you've got that thing on the widest field of view setting in something like DCS in the F-18 Hornet off the carrier, you really sense the speed. And that's the area where, of course, the 8KX wins hands down against the Crystal. And I think if field of view is still something that is very important to you, then you might be a little bit disappointed with the Crystal. Even though I feel the field of view in this is excellent. It's about 102 degrees both sides. I would say it's similar to an 8KX on small field of view setting. Now, for people that have been upgrading from the Reverb G2 and even say the Vario Aero, you're going to be blown away with the field of view. It's much better. But if you're coming from an 8KX, you will be disappointed with it to start with. However, for me personally, I always favour image quality over field of view. And I do think that even with that lack of field of view, you're going to be absolutely blown away with the sheer clarity of this headset, together with that beautiful, you know, QLED panel and local dimming. Oh, it's for me, it's a massive difference. I don't think I'm going to use the 8KX very often now, apart from when I'm featuring it in videos on YouTube, because I much prefer the Crystal to the 8KX, even with that you know, squashed field of view, so to speak. And by the way, it's worth mentioning that in terms of the vertical field of view, it's pretty much as good as the 8KX. It really is very, very, very high. Like, you can't really see the edges of the lenses when you're looking up and down. It's only from the side, if that makes sense. And if I look at this panel right now, this is the amazing thing. I can see the entire panel. That is, let me get my mouse, all the way from here to this side. And if I look at this, so my eyes are looking at this, right? And I move my eyes, I can see the airspeed indicator all the way up to the oil PSI. I can read that as well. I can read everything that's in front of me. compared to the 8KX sweet spot, for instance, I'd be able to read the GNS 530 and maybe the airspeed indicator and maybe a little bit of that. The vertical sweet spot's better in the 8KX, so I'd probably be able to read this as well. So as a circle, it'd be about that, compared to the Crystal, which is this. However, with the 8KX, I'd also be able to see both engines. If anything, I'm not sure, would you see that in real life? I don't know, but I'd definitely be able to see both of these engines, but with the Crystal, the field of view is from there to here. I can still see the full panel, and surely that's what matters the most. But at the end of the day, this is down to personal preference, guys, and if field of view is the utmost importance for you, then you're probably better off waiting for the Pimax 12K QLED. And there is Lees Bradford. We'll just make a bit of a downwind leg and come in for a landing. And you know, looking out there, the far distance in the Crystal is such a massive difference compared to the 8KX. It's a huge upgrade, guys. So I think for most people, the field of view thing won't be an issue at all. Right then, we're in the H2 by the way today, a little bit bumpy. I'm also testing out a new piece of software for the Sim Racing Studio haptic seat, the U-Shake 6, because they're getting a flying profile sorted, and yeah, I'm looking forward to showing those upgrades on the channel soon, once I can talk about them properly. But it's great to see that Sim Racing Studio is busy and hard at work, refining the experience for flight simmers. So before we end this video, and this is Lee's by the way, I thought I'd show you a nice view out the window before we come to land. So obviously the Pimax Crystal has eye tracking, which brings it very much up to the standards of the Vario Aero, and it makes it more future-proof as well, especially when you consider things like dynamic foveated rendering makes a huge difference to performance. The 8KX does not have that. It does have a fixed foveated rendering, however, but that hasn't been utilised that much as far as I'm aware anyway. So that is a big plus for the Crystal, the fact that the eye tracking will mean that hopefully as time moves forward we will have that utilised in flight sims, especially for DCS, because as you know with the Aero it makes a huge difference. And of course the last thing is the fact that the 8KX is a PC VR headset only, and it doesn't need batteries. This is the Achilles heel, in my opinion, of the Crystal. It's the thing I don't like about it the most. It needs batteries, even when you're powered with a HDMI port and 2 USB cables, the battery still runs out. I am going to be doing a proper battery test soon, because I still don't really know how much I can get out of this headset. But they have made it pretty good with the hot swappable feature. You can, and I have tried this, you switch the headset or the display off. I'd recommend getting out of VR for a second, changing the battery, and then the headset fires back into life, and you can continue using it again for another 3 or 4 hours. So it's not a massive deal, but it's still a pain when you consider that the 8KX, you don't need to ever do that at all. Right, so let's come in for a landing now because the fuel is very low here. And yeah, let's just sum up. My personal opinion is, for me, the Pimax Crystal is a huge upgrade in terms of visual fidelity, and just, you know, I just love it compared to the 8KX. If I had to choose between the two, it's going to be the Crystal every day for me, because I favour that clarity over the field of view. But I think for many of you who are die-hard 8KX fans, it probably makes more sense to wait for the 12K QLED. But make no mistake, I think the field of view of the Crystal is actually pretty good. It's certainly enough for me, especially when I've got the most beautiful visuals ever to grace a VR display, because it really is absolutely beautiful, fantastic. Please do let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts on this, and as always I really do appreciate all your support. We're now going to land at Leeds Bradford. It's a little bit gusty. We're going to keep the power up here. Full prop, full mixture. And I think we'll just go for one stage of flaps here. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. Let's see if we can land on the outside view. And I'll see you again very soon. Oh, look at that. Nailed it. Take care and bye for now. And if you are interested in getting a crystal and you found all my videos useful, I would appreciate it if you'd use my affiliated link. No pressure, but as always, you know, making these videos with a full-time job, well, it's quite hard, to say the least. Take care, folks. Have a great week. Bye for now. Actually, there's probably one thing I forgot to mention, and that is performance. I kind of alluded to it, but I think in terms of performance, they're both very similar anyway, because if you're going to use the full field of view of the 8KX, well, that's going to hurt performance as much as the high resolution of the Crystal. So they're both really, really hard on performance. But I think with my settings guide, with the override tool of the OpenXR toolkit, I would say that the Crystal runs a bit better than the 8KX at full field of view. But if you run the 8KX at normal field of view, I would say the 8KX beats the Crystal. See what I mean, guys? Some of these things are quite hard to answer. But yeah, that's the best way I can describe that. Anyway, I'm going to refuel this beautiful bird and continue on my adventure. I'm definitely going now. See you soon. Take care.